Everyone, it's Mr. Han here. Here are our notes on how to, or the coordinate plane. If you don't know what a coordinate plane is, I am here to tell you. So, here's what you guys should have. The vocabulary. Here's a list of vocabulary words. I'm not going to sit here and read all these to you. That's something you can do. And so, coordinate planes, we're going to be dealing with that. So, here, a coordinate plane is basically a flat surface that has two lines that are going to cross. They're called the x and y axis. All right. And they're going to create a place for us to graph. And so basically, whenever I talk about coordinate planes, you should know that we're graphing. Okay. And so in elementary school, your whole entire elementary school life, you have been using this thing called, wow, I hate this blue color. Sorry. Gonna change it. You have this thing called the y-axis right here. So you've been drawing numbers on a number line for such a long time. And basically you would say like, oh, here's the number 0. In elementary school, you'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4. And then on the left side, which is on this side, you know that there are negative numbers like -1, -2, -3. So this is not new. This is something that you've learned since elementary school. You should feel pretty good about this. Okay? If you don't know what to say. But we know that 0 is here, and we know that the next number is 1. And if we count, we have froggies. Whatever you have in elementary school, you'd start counting. Okay? And then sometime in probably 6th grade, you are introduced to negative numbers. We've already talked about adding and subtracting negative numbers. And so here is the x-axis. Okay? Now, the reason why this is called coordinate plane is because now we have something called the y-axis. All right, the y-axis. So here, this is actually what I'm going to say is the most important thing that you're going to be learning, because you need to know that your y-axis is new. And so I just want you to think about how you've learned. And so when we started learning about numbers, we always learned on a horizontal, which goes left and right, number line. Okay. Generally, you did not grow up learning numbers like this, 0, 1, 2. Like that's not normal, I would say. This is more normal, where you've grown up using a number line. And so what we're doing now is we are combining the x-axis, which is what we've always grown up with the y-axis. And it creates a place for us to graph. And so you could see the x-axis. Ignore all of this up here and ignore all of this down here. Just look at this x-axis. And so you can see that that's called the x-axis, okay? And so if we just look here, we can see that there's 0. We skip a line. You could probably guess what number that is. 2. We skip a line. You see that this is 4. Skip a line. 6. So not rocket science. You could say that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so this number line would go on forever. If we look on the left side, we have 0, -2, -4, -6. And so here we're also skipping. We're we're scaling by 2. And so here this is -1, -3, -5, -6, and -7. And so the number line will go on infinitely into the negatives. Okay. And now we are introducing, and so hopefully this makes sense to you. None of that is confusing. If it is, ask your neighbor. I don't know. I'm not with you. And so now you are going to throw in a y-axis, and this makes it a coordinate plane, okay? Y-axis is very important, all right? It is the line that goes up and down. I will tell you a story about why the y-axis is important and why it goes up and down. But here, now if we just focus on the y-axis, ignore all these other numbers, you can see it starts at 0 right here, skips a line 2, skips a line 4. So you could see this is very similar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's going up. And if you're in math class with me, you know that when we add, let's say balloons, it's going up. You go down to the negative, it's going to be negative. So here, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, and -7. Okay? And so we have an x-axis, We have a y-axis. Okay. And another vocabulary word that you need to learn is the origin, which is going to be where everything starts. That's what the word origin means, okay? Like X-Men Origins, that's a movie that's out on for Marvels, and so Marvel movies, and so, or X-Men movies, and it talks about how the X-Men started, like mutants start. And so origins, 0, it's where it begins. And so 0, 0 is going to be our origin right here, okay? All right, some key vocabulary words there. At the end of today, you need to be able to graph on a coordinate plane. And so far, all I've done is I've just kind of explained that a coordinate plane is when you have an x and y axis on a flat surface, okay? And we talked about origin, x-axis, y-axis. Okay, quadrants, if you think of, it's another vocabulary word, a quadrant is here. So one of 4 sections of a coordinate plane formed by the intersection of the x and y-axis. If that's gibberish to you, if you look at the x and y-axis, they create 4 sections, quarters, quadrants. All right, and so quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. And so we have 4 quadrants here. The reason why this is quadrant 1 and not this is because, I mean, you might be thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, right? That might make more sense just by looking at it. But this is called quadrant 1 because, look, we have positive numbers and positive numbers. And so when we talk about numbers, generally you start with, I mean, you've been growing up using positive numbers. And so if I said 3, that'd be positive numbers. And so this is our first quadrant. And then second quadrant, third quadrant, fourth quadrant. So it goes counterclockwise, which means the opposite of a clock. All right. Okay, that's the basics. That's like the foundations. But let's go ahead and get into our notes. So if we want to be able to graph on this thing called a coordinate plane, not quadrant plane. Here are our notes. So to identify the location of to identify the location / coordinates of an ordered pair. And so we need to do these things. But an ordered pair is basically saying a point. So this is a point right here. I want you to go ahead and underline this. This is a point. So we're going to plot points on this coordinate plane. Not that one. We're going to do it on here. And so the order we do things, the steps we do is we always start at the origin, which is another word for where things start. And so we always start at 0, 0. Okay. And so if you don't know, the origin is at 0, 0. You should be writing down anything I write down. 0, 0. Okay. So that's the origin. We're going to start there. And then on the x, the x coordinate tells you where to move on the x-axis. So here in the ordered pair, the x comes first, then the y. So here, this is our x value, 2, and y is our second value, 4. All right. Now, if you get confused on x, y, well, the x-axis is the one that goes side to side, where we always started with our numbers, and then the y goes up and down. All right. X, y. I know students are going to get this confused. Listen carefully. When we think about, why do you think X comes first? I mean, if I were to take a guess, I would start singing the alphabet and A, B, C, D, F, G, Q, R, S, T, V, W, X, then Y. And so X is going to come before Y in the alphabet. And so you could always, that's a way to remember. X comes first. And so when I look at this coordinate, it looks like gibberish to you probably. It's all right. We're going to practice a lot. This is going to be one point where the x value is 2 and the y value is 4. Notice that 2 is positive, 4 is positive. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on the x-axis and find the number 2. Let's go find the number 2. So x-axis, you need to remember, that's kind of the hard part. X-axis, remembering that it goes left and right. 2. And then the y value is 4. So I'm going to go on the y-axis and find 4, which is right here. And so 2, 4, if I were to draw a line, this is where they meet. I don't necessarily want to draw lines. I want to be able to find 2 on the x-axis, 4 on the y-axis. Okay, so 4 and 2, and they meet here. So this is our point A, which is at 2, 4. 2 being the x value, 4 being the y value. Okay, each coordinate ordered pair, is going to be 1 point, and that's kind of what I was saying here. So to identify the location of the coordinates of an ordered pair, so point x, y. And so all of these are going to be 1 point, where we find the x value first, and then we go find the y value, up or down, and then we draw a dot, and we say that's point A. Okay, hopefully that makes sense to you. So here, point B, we have -2 for our x value, and then -3 for our y value. So I'm going to go ahead and find -2 on my x-axis. -2 is right here. On my x-axis, right? I'm looking on my x-axis. I'm going to go find -2. So that's right here. And then -3 on my y-axis, which is down 3. And so I'm going to go ahead and plot a point right there, because that's -2, -3. Right there. This is -2, -3. That's our point B. All right. And so right now what we're doing is we're plotting a whole bunch of points on our coordinate plane. Point C, -3, 3. So I'm going to go find -3 on my x-axis. Why? Because -3 is my x value. These are all my x values. And these are my y values. So for this specific point, -3, 3. Go find -3 on my x-axis, and I'm going to repeat that a lot. But -3 is right here. And then the y value is 3, which is a +3. And so I'm going to go ahead and plot my point right there. -3, 3. And this is my point C. All right. So we plotted points A, B, C. Next point we have to plot is D, 5, -2. So I'm going to go find 5 on the x-axis. Remember, our x-axis is the one that goes left and right. If we think about elementary school, we always started on the we've always used the x-axis. The y-axis is new. Okay? And so the point is 5, -2. If you forget, it's right here. 5, -2. And so I'm going to go ahead and find 5 on my x-axis and -2 on my y-axis. Where do those two meet? Right here. So I'm going to go ahead and plot my point right here. 5, -2. And this is point D. D. This point D is 5, -2. We're almost done. E, 0, 2, 0, 2. That one might be a little bit confusing. We're going to look on our x-axis. Remember, this is our x value. So here I'm looking at this point right here. 0, 2. So on my x-axis, 0 is right here. So I'm not going to move to the left or to the right. I'm going to stay put. And then go find 2 on the y-axis. And that's actually going to be right here. This is E, 0, 2. 0, 2. Okay. And then point F is at -4, 0. Similar, go find -4 on the x-axis, so that's right here. And then the y value, if you look at the y value, 0 is right here. So I'm not going to go up or down. I'm going to stay here. -4, 0 is right here. And that's F. -4, 0. Done. And so I went ahead and plotted all of these points, A, B, where's B? Right here. C is -3, 3, so -3 on the x-axis, 3 on the y-axis, 5, oops, sorry, that's negative, 5, -2, 0, 2, and -4, 0, stays there. All right. Okay, let's move on. So this is just basically, how do we plot points on this thing called a coordinate plane? Okay, so here are some more points, we're going to write the coordinates of these points. So this might be a little bit, it's the opposite. And so now I'm giving you a graph. Our job is to look at our graph. Let's start with point G. Where is it? It might be helpful to just take a highlighter and circle it blue. So here on my x-axis, because that's what we started with elementary school, right? I'm going to look on my x-axis. Where is it? This value right here is -5. So the x value is -5, right, on the x-axis. And on the y-axis, what value is this one, right? Because it doesn't go up or down. And so my x value is -5. My y value doesn't go up or down. So this is actually at 0. 5, 0. All right, let's do a couple more. H, where's H? Right here. So my x value is 1, 2, 3, 4. It's at 4. And it goes up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is 5 right here. So this is 4 x value, 5 on the y-axis. I always look on the x value first, and then I go and look at the y value next. All right. Next, point I. I is right here. So if I go look at I, my x value is at 2, my y value is at -5. So 2, -5. 2, -5. Point J, let's use red. J. The x value is at 7. The y value is at -2. So 7, right? -2. That's my point right here. 7, -2. I know a lot of students are going to do -2, 7, and they're going to switch their x and y value. Please make sure that you have the x value first. So that's 7, then -2. X, then the y. X, then the y. Okay? Point K, let's use an interesting color here. Let's do that one. Point K. K. What x value is -4, right? It's on this line, -4. And the y value is -7, right here, -7. So -4, -7. -4 is my x value, and then -7 is my y value. It goes 4 to the left and 7 down. Okay, so down is -7 right here. And 4 to the left is -4. -4, 7. Last one, last but not least, let's use purple since we haven't used the L. X value, we always start with the x value first. Oh, it's getting a little blurry. Hello. X value, it's at -1, and then you go up to -1, 2. -1, 2. And so those are my coordinates. And so this time I'm giving you a graph that already has the points, and my job is to look on the x value, find what number it lies on, and then go down or up, right? But this one's down, and so you go find a y value. X, then y. X, then y. X, then y. Okay? All right. This last part, pretty interesting. I didn't really talk about in these right here. But right here, if you remember the quadrants, quadrant means 4, right? There are 4 different sections. There's one here, one here, one here, and one here, okay? And so if you remember, quadrant 1 is actually not where you think it is. A lot of students are going to say this is quadrant 1 because you read from left to right, right? This is actually quadrant 1 right here. this is quadrant 1. And let's use Roman numerals, so I'll say 1. It looks like an I, but Roman numerals, that's like how the Romans counted a long time ago. Okay. This computer just, okay. This is quadrant 2. This is quadrant 3, and this is quadrant 4. It looks like an I, V. Okay. And so all I'm asking you is to identify the quadrant, okay, or the axis, because some of these are on the X and Y axis, right? Because they're not in, like, N and R are not inside these quadrants, right? They're not in any of these. They're actually on the X or Y axis. And so let's start with point M. Point M is right here. It's not in quadrant 1, it's in quadrant 2. So you're just going to put Q2 or quadrant 2 if you want to write it out. I don't. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with the shorter version. Quadrant 2, point N is right here. That is not in any of these quadrants. It's actually it's on the line, which is on either the X or Y axis. If you could remember what axis this is, X axis. All right, point P. P right here. This is quadrant 1, 2, 3, 4. Which quadrant is it in? Right? Please tell me you know. It's Q3. Q. Oh, that's kind of confusing. Q for quadrant, but what quadrant is point P? I mean Q on? It's in quadrant 4. Okay, hopefully this is making sense to you. R, where's point R? Is it in any of these quadrants? 1, 2, 3, or 4? Don't think so. It's on this line right here. What is this line called? It's called the y-axis. So I'm going to say y-axis. And then point S right here. It's in quadrant 1. All right. All right. So far, just to get a quick overview, you should read all this. If you need to pause the video, you can. Quadrant plane, X and Y axis, origin, quadrant, ordered pair, which is also a point, right? It's basically a point. The X coordinate and Y coordinate, okay? All right, and then we talked about the actual, we see it, right? This is a coordinate plane. We have quadrants. We have something called the X axis. We have something called the Y axis and the origin, okay? And then we talked about what it takes to plot some points. We look at the X value, we find the X value, and then we go find the Y value, and then we go up 4, okay? Then we took some points, and then we found out what coordinates they were, so we kind of did the opposite of what we just talked about. And then here we just labeled which quadrants and what axis they are, okay? Hopefully that's making sense to you here. Let's move on. Connecting points to make figures. All right, so this is after we understand what it means to plot points or take ordered pairs, aka points, and put them on a coordinate grid, okay? When we're connecting points to make figures, it's like connect the dots. You guys have probably done that as a kid. Sometimes when you try to connect points, they make a figure like a square or a rectangle. Let's try. And so what we're going to do is we're going to plot these points A, B, C, and D, and then we're going to connect them. And so I'm going to go ahead and label this. And so this is where it takes a lot of work, but do you remember what this line is called? It's like Dora the Explorer. Can you find the backpack? Do you know what this line is called right here? And this line, right? And so they're both axis. Which one is the X one and which one is the Y one? And so hopefully you remember from our notes earlier, the line that goes horizontally is our X axis, and the line that goes up and down is our y-axis. This is going to come up huge in 8th grade, all right? You need to know your x and y axis. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and scale this, which just means we're going to put little numbers here. This is saying this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Over here, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7. And then we go up and down on our y-axis. So I'm going to start with the positives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Don't forget 0 is right here, right? 0. That's our origin. You don't necessarily need to put 0, but if you want. And then here we have -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7. All right. I like to do this in a blue color, so I'm just going to change this to blue. It's just easier to see on Notability. All right. So we're going to plot the following points on the grid below. A. I'll do this in green. A is at 3, 2. Remember, what value comes first, x or y, in our ordered pair, right? Hopefully you said x. I don't know why. I'm not with you, or I'm not. This is a video. How am I supposed to know? So x is 3. So x value is on the x-axis. We're going to find 3. Hopefully you can find it. And then on the y value, we're going to find 2, which is right here. 3, 2, that point is right here. This is point A, 3, 2. Muy bien. Okay, the next point is at -3, 2. So I'm going to find -3 on the x-axis and 2 on the y-axis. This is point B. 3, -2. Oops, sorry. Totally messed that up. It's -3, +2. I'm going to move a little bit more quickly. Point C, remember our x value comes first, then our y. So -3, -2. I'm going to find -3 on the x-axis. 1, 2, 3. This is -3, -2 right here. So this is where they meet. -3, -2. This is point C. -3, -2. And our last point is 3, -2. And so I'm going to go ahead and find 3 on our x-axis, -2 on our y-axis. It's going to be right here. Right there. 3, -2. This is point D. 3, -2. Go ahead and connect the dots. One of the things I do want to mention is when you do this, I'm drawing a line from A to B, B to C, and C to D. So let me show you. I'm drawing a line from A to B, B to C, and C to D. And then I always connect it back. You'll have a couple of assignments where you might want to plot points, but if you do not go from A to B, B to C, and C to D, and then you close it up, you're going to end up with something like this. If you went from A to C, C to B, and D to B to D, right? This is not the image I'm trying to create. And so I just want to make sure as you're doing this, make sure you're connecting from A, B, C, then D. And now this will get you a shape. What kind of shape did they make? They created a rectangle. Okay. And so here's a quick note. You'll notice that rectangles will always have the same coordinates on some of them. So point A and B, right? Do they have the same x value? Or do they have the same y value? right? So is negative 3 and 3 the same? No, not really. Well, is 2 and 2 the same? Yes. And so their y values are equivalent or the same. And so point A and B have the same y coordinate. Point A and D also have the same, A and D. So A and D now. Do they have the same x value or y value? And so you look, 3 and 3 is the same. Okay, they have the same x value. Do they have the same y value? Not really. So they have the same x coordinate. And you're going to see rectangles kind of have that kind of pattern. Okay. Can you find the area of this figure? Sure, why not? Let's go ahead and count. What's the height of this rectangle? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to go ahead and put 4 here. And then this goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So our width is 6. To find the area of a rectangle, base times height, 4 times 6. 4 times 6 equals 24 units squared. All right. Last one right here. There are 3 points. I'm going to guess it creates, what has 3 points? What shape? Not rocket science. Oh, haha. Now we have to go ahead and scale this. The nice thing about Notability is you can scale like this. So I could go ahead and do 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, 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 blah. Right? I could do that, but check this out. This is why I love Notability. I'll just go ahead and duplicate this because it's already drawn out to scale. Right? It's literally the same. And I'm just going to get rid of everything else. You get what I'm saying? I have it scaled. Save myself some time. You guys could thank me someday. Alright, so if you want, you could go ahead and draw all this out. If you're on paper, I don't know what to tell you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6, negative 7. This is on the x-axis. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6, negative 7. This is on the y-axis. All right? Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Let's go ahead and move on. So now we're going to plot the following points on the grid below. Great, we already scaled because we, did a little bit of magic. Point A is at 4, 2. Remember our x, y values, right? X always comes first. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? Sing the song. X comes first. 4 on the x-axis, which is here, left and right. So 4, 1, 1. 4, 1. A. 4, 1. Ta-da! Done. B, if you saw that, Dr. Brock sent me some message. I don't even know what this said. B, 1, 5. X, Y value. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and find 1 on the x-axis, 5 on the y. So 1 on the x, 5 on the y right here. This is point B at 1, 5. Last is C. Negative 2, 1. This is our x value, and this is our y value. X, negative 2, 1, 1 y. So negative 2, 1 is right here. C, negative 2, 1. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect the dots from A to B, B to C, and C to A. What shape is this, folks? What type of polygon do you make? A triangle. Can you find the area of the triangle? Sure, the area of a triangle is 1/2 times the base times the height. So we need to find out what the base and the height are. The base is going to be the bottom, so let's go ahead and count this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then the height, we literally always go from top to bottom. And so from the very top to the very bottom is 1, 2, 3, 4. Check this out. I'm going to take my lasso, take this, I'm going to just tap on this right here. Style. And I could swipe here. I'll make it a dotted line. Sick, huh? That's right. Mr. Han's cool. All right, base times height is 4 times 6. So 1/2 times 4 times 6. 1/2 of 4 times 6 is 24. 1/2 of 24 is 12. 12 units squared. All right, those are our notes. Good luck.